Okay. Well, kia ora. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second in our Affordable Energy webinar series. My name's Harvey Brooks. I'm the Executive Director of Wellbeing Waikato, and it's great to have you along with us today to hear from Rachel Afeaki. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start the webinar, and then we'll get right into it. I'll do a karakia in just a moment, but just a reminder, we are recording these events. So if you're uncomfortable with your image being recorded, please turn off your camera now. And the recording and the slides will be posted on our website by the end of the week. In terms of questions and comments that you might have, can I ask that everyone turns off their microphones now? I can hear someone's got a microphone live, so please just turn that off so that there's no background noise. Please put all your comments and questions in the chat and we will track those as we go along, and then there's a Q&A opportunity at the end, and Amy, who is here from Wellbeing Waikato as well, will summarise the questions and put those to Rachel, and then if there's any time at the end we can always open up for further questions. Okay, so just to start us and make the meeting tika with a karakia, karakia, whakataka hau, ke te uru, whakataka hau, ke te tanga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e hi yaki ana ta atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhunga, haumie, huie, daikie. Right, well, it's my great pleasure today to welcome both our guest and my co-host to this webinar. So first of all, Rachel Afeaki, and thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us today from Wellington. Just a little bit of a background about Rachel. She's an independent director, businesswoman, and a chartered fellow of the Institute of Directors New Zealand, with more than 20 years experience in governance, leadership and community development. She currently serves as chair of the WEL Energy Trust and holds governance roles across social housing, mental health, education, wellbeing and economic development. She's passionate about creating stronger and more resilient communities and has extensive experience working across New Zealand and the Pacific, advancing initiatives in wellbeing, leadership, trade, investment, and community development. She's recognised for her values-based leadership, strategic thinking, and commitment to intergenerational outcomes that benefit families, communities, and future generations. And today, Rachel joins the Energy Challenge webinar series to share her perspectives on the role of affordable energy and what role it plays in supporting household well-being, community resilience, and a thriving Waikato. So thank you very, very much, Rachel, for joining us today. Now, just a little bit of a header on this. So Rachel is currently the chair of the WEL Energy Trust. She is standing again for the WEL Energy Trust, and I think the ballot for that closes on Friday, I believe. And so it's just important to note that our hosting of Rachel or any of the other prospective political representatives that we are hosting during this series is not an endorsement of their candidacy. And if you have any questions about Rachel's candidacy, I really do urge you to get a hold of her after the webinar. We'll be focusing on her role as the current chair of WEL Energy Trust. A quick introduction also to my friend Ernie Newman, who is an independent competition expert and a commentator. Ernie is a name that may be known to many of you, especially if you are grateful for the fact that we have a reliable, cost-effective telecommunications system in New Zealand. Most memorably for me, at least, Ernie was the previous chief executive of the Telecommunication Users Association Network of New Zealand. And it might be slightly overstating it, Ernie, or perhaps not, but I think we have Ernie to thank for the fact that we have a competitive telecommunications industry in New Zealand. He's also a forthright commentator on other competition issues, and Ernie and I have worked together on food affordability as well. So great to have you with us also, Ernie, and Ernie will be providing some summary thoughts at the end of Rachel's presentation and Q&A. I trust by now most people on the webinar know who we are, Wellbeing Waikato. I won't read through all the words. We're here to really understand what's the drivers behind the big issues that are affecting households and communities in the Waikato. And we share our learnings and our insights publicly with everybody and encourage organisations who are in positions of responsibility and resource to do everything they can to improve the well-being of our people. We've focused on a number of things over the last few years, but power, electricity is a current big focus. And I'm not the first and certainly not the last to say that electricity systems need to be affordable, reliable and sustainable, all three. And that's the big challenge that we all have right now. So we've posed 4 big questions to a range of speakers over the next 4 or so months, and we're asking each of them to reflect on those from their perspective and with their expertise. Some will reflect on all of them, some will reflect on 1 or 2, and that's absolutely fine. And they are, how does the electricity system really work? Why is it designed that way? What drives power prices? How can we make them more affordable? How does energy affordability affect household and community well-being? And what would a better system look like? And how are we going to get there? A couple of weeks ago, we heard from Jeff Bertram, and if you were on that presentation, you'll know that Jeff answered all 4 of those questions in tremendous detail, and I am not going to attempt to summarize Jeff's very, very thorough presentation in a similar level of detail today, but just to reflect briefly on it. He noted the current model using an MB graphic, which is here on the screen, and I think the key point of it really was that the control to some large degree is on the left-hand side of this diagram in terms of the generation and transmission side of the diagram. That's where the system is controlled from. And Jeff proposed a new model which actually complements that with a more local system of generation, storage and distribution, and a more localized model of energy ownership and control. And if it was to be put into one slide, it looks something like this, going from a system where remote, in other words, away from the user, generation and transmission is dominant and distributed generation is very minor, to one where distributed generation is on par or even more significant than remote generation and transmission. So you can look at that presentation and the slides on our website. Okay. Well, that's where we're at, and it's my real pleasure again to introduce Rachel to the webinar series, and she's going to speak to us today on powering regional community wellbeing. You keep using that word wellbeing, Rachel, I'm so pleased, and how energy value creates lasting impact. So Rachel is on her phone today, so I'll be driving the presentation, and I'll let Rachel start her presentation now. Kia ora, Rachel.
Kia ora, Harvey, and kia ora, Amy, and all those who are online. It's wonderful to be here this morning. I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you to yourself, Harvey, and the team at Wellbeing Waikato. I think the topic of energy affordability is top of mind, not only for our communities, but government at hand. And so this webinar and its topic itself is very timely. So it's wonderful to be here from lovely Wellington. And I think first and foremost, I will be talking to you in regards to my title, Powering Regional Community Wellbeing, and how energy value creates lasting impact. And in particular, what this looks like from the Waikato. And so the disclaimer, first and foremost, is that I'm going to avoid making this a technical energy presentation. And my views are my own as a governor and a leader in the energy space, and my experience as the chair of WEL Energy Trust, but also, you know, as it is also known as the local community-owned energy trust. And so I think first and foremost, I just want to speak to the reality checks, and I think I'm probably onto my 3rd slide here, Harvey. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Pardon me.
All good. We often talk about electricity in terms of megawatts and markets and infrastructure, but ultimately the purpose of an energy system is not electricity solely, but the purpose is its relationship with families, businesses, and generations. The test of a successful energy system is its capability to uplift and measure wellbeing outcomes and economic participation. And what does this look like locally for the Waikato region?
Okay.
So For community-owned energy trust, which is the WEL Energy Trust, and the reason why I say this is that for many people in our region are very unfamiliar of the work and the role of the WEL Energy Trust. I currently chair the trust with collaborative leadership around the table, and we are the shareholders of the electricity distribution business, which is WEL Networks. And our primary role is to steward the region's EDB to perform successfully. So electricity distribution business, which is WEL Networks, through community ownership of essential network infrastructure, the community trust ensures that the economic benefits of the electricity network system remains sustainable. And it currently services about 103,000 plus households and businesses across our region. Its role is to deliver efficient, reliable energy services and solutions to meet the needs of a fast-growing region, to create return directly to consumers through annual dividends, improving household affordability, and to alleviate energy-related financial pressures. The boundaries that we do service include Hamilton, Kirikiriroa, Waikato District, and parts of Waipa. I think one of the positive things to note is that the Trust and the EDB have a very strong working relationship. And it is our role to continue to support long-term approaches to delivering enduring benefits to our wider communities. Our clear focus on balancing the energy trilemma of security, affordability, and sustainability. It also is to ensure that we are to remain resilient and capable of supporting future growth in our region. So it's very incredibly vital that the senior leadership of both respective entities work very closely together. And it's not to say that we don't have our disagreements, but we do continue to have robust conversations about what is best for the region. So this slide here, and this is what I will talk to, and I am addressing only one question, Harvey, that you've sent through, which is how does energy affordability affect household and community well-being? And so this slide that I've just placed up here is how value flows back to the community. And clearly it shows here that it actually starts with the networks, and then from the networks, it actually is generated, revenue is generated from the networks, and it actually comes through and distributed through to communities and households. Now, of interest, what you'll see in the diagram is that it is distributed either via electricity discounts or via network investments or community grants. The benefits to customers and community organisations is actually determined by the trust itself. But of course, the overall desire is to ensure that strong communities both benefit from the direct support and long-term investments of the EDB. In reference to the diagram, electricity discounts, the discounts come from the rebate program from the regulated earnings of the electricity distribution business. This does require an 18-month lead-in period to determine an agreed amount between the company and the trust. So it's not a decision that is made overnight. It does require a lot of strategic high-level discussions at the table. The purpose of the electricity discount is to help ease cost of living pressures and to contribute to greater financial well-being. So this is the most visible form of community benefit. Every eligible customer receives a direct financial benefit via the discount. It recognises that electricity is an essential service, and for households particularly facing cost of living pressures, every dollar matters. Discounts provide immediate relief and demonstrate the value of community ownership. The wellbeing outcomes that we see here is reduced household stress, greater affordability, improved energy access, and better household resilience. For many families, a discount is not simply a saving on a power bill, but it can free up resources for food, housing, education, and other essentials. Second, community grants. Now, grants are funded separately for community purposes, so it's not an either or an all situation. Grants support projects like, for example, the solar installation at the Waikato Cancer Lodge, energy initiatives in helping community organisations direct more resources where they are needed most. Most of us will benefit from community funded projects at some point of our lives, whether directly or indirectly. So this is the most visible form of community benefit. Every eligible customer receives a direct, I might read my notes. Community organisations are often closest to local needs. Grants empower communities to solve local challenges. They support projects that improve quality of life. Small grants can often create significant social impact. The wellbeing outcomes that we see here is social connection, community participation, volunteer support, and stronger neighbourhoods. Community grants recognise that wellbeing is built through local leadership and community action. So the desire is to have a balanced approach. And so we're probably 2 slides ahead, Harvey. That's great.
Right.
Yep, that's all good.
Keep going.
Is to have a balanced approach, balance and connection. The symbol, which you'll see in the slide, the symbol provides a useful point. Community benefit is not an either and or choice, as I mentioned. Direct support and community investment work together. The strongest communities balance present needs with future opportunities. Some benefits help households today, others help build stronger communities tomorrow. Both are really important. So on slide 12 is a diagram that actually notes the community benefit happens in different ways. And so that's just what I've actually spoken about and what it looks like in reality for us in our region. Community benefit, slide 13, is delivered through complementary pathways. And together, these approaches help improve household well-being while building stronger, more resilient communities over the long term. Now, the examples of this that we see in our communities is energy projects, which can improve energy efficiency, strong communities who need both direct support and long-term investment. So this is the trust, and in most cases in collaboration with the company, supporting innovative energy solutions, which benefits everyone. Projects may improve efficiency, affordability, and sustainability. Investment can help communities prepare for future energy needs, and every project contributes to resilience and environmental outcomes. And examples of this, which I'm sure many have seen, is solar initiatives, energy efficiency programs, community resilient initiatives. And the wellbeing outcomes as a result work towards lower future energy costs, greater resilience, reduced emissions, and energy security. Every projects are investments that help future generations within the Waikato region benefit from a more affordable and sustainable energy system. Charitable organisations help strengthen the social services sector in our region, supporting people when they need it most. And this looks like community wellbeing, which depends on strong support networks, which I know, Harvey, you can relate to this with your organisation. Charitable organisations often work with society's most vulnerable people. They address needs that markets alone cannot solve. And supporting charities strengthen the social safety net across our region. And the outcomes that we anticipate to see is reduced hardship, social inclusion, community support, and improved quality of life. A healthy community is judged not only by how it supports the successful, but how it supports those facing challenges. And so regional initiatives, and so an example of a community benefit program in the regional initiative is our Whare Ora program. And this initiative is aimed at helping whānau families create warmer, drier and healthier homes. It provides free support including thermal curtains, heating blankets and safety equipment. You work with navigators who provide an opportunity to collate data and to also provide evidence for the long term for both the trust and the company to ensure that our narrative from our region is very much reflective of what we're doing locally, because this is a project that's actually been delivered nationally across other consumer community trusts across New Zealand. So strong regions create strong communities, and this is, I believe, a primary role of the trust and the company working together. Regional initiatives often focus on long-term development. It supports economic growth, environmental stewardship, and community resilience. Regional investments create benefits that extend beyond individual households. Examples could include environmental restoration, leadership development, education programs, which is the Whare Ora, and regional economic development, community infrastructure. And what we begin to see, and we have seen for many years, is regional prosperity. We need to see more of it, environmental sustainability, employment opportunities, and stronger future generations. So it's really vital that investing in regional initiatives means investing in the future success of the Waikato as a whole. So beyond the bill, community-owned energy creates value that supports affordability today and well-being for generations to come. The impact of community-owned energy extends far beyond keeping the lights on. What we have operating in our region is a distinctive model that balances immediate benefit with long-term outcomes. So what does this mean for the Waikato region? Slide 17. What next? Now, these are the questions that that we continue to ask ourselves at the table. We continue to ask ourselves between the trust and the company, and also across New Zealand. These are the conversations that are being had, I believe, at the high levels of government about addressing the challenges of the affordability of electricity and energy, particularly for our households. What role should community-owned assets play in addressing cost of living pressures and energy affordability in the future? When looking at community wellbeing, how do we measure the true impact of energy-related investments on community wellbeing beyond financial returns? This requires the collation of appropriate data that needs to be collected over a period of time, and it's quite often not a cost-effective project. It's really important that we take into consideration equity and inclusion. What additional support might be needed to address energy hardship across our region? And I believe with the Whare Ora project, we are doing a good job at this point in time, but there's still more to be done. Community investment. How can community grants and regional initiatives be targeted to create the longest term impact? It's really pleasing to see that our team actually is on the ground at the coalface working with our communities and engaging with a number of our community organisations and hearing and understanding of our wider communities in our region. And so this is actually filtered back to the board for further discussion and strategic priority developments. Future energy systems. What opportunities exist for community-owned energy organisations to play a greater role, not only in the Waikato region, but also New Zealand's energy transition? And I guess the saying goes, no one should be left behind. Strategic reflection. How can we ensure that future generations continue to share in the value created by today's infrastructure investments? And an example of this that's happening in our region is the establishment and opening and blessing of solar farms that are taking place in our regions and in partnership with iwi. And there is a strong sense and value proposition of such developments that actually focuses on the future of the young people of our region. And so for many of the conversations had at the table here, it's actually looking at the future of what these solar farms will produce and return back to the local communities, particularly iwi. Slide 19, Energy Trust New Zealand is the national organisation of consumer-owned power distribution. And this entity represents and advocates on behalf of regional energy trusts located throughout New Zealand. And I believe we have about 18 EDBs that are members, and we are a member. These trusts are owners of the companies operating electricity distribution networks on behalf of local consumers and community. And it's really good to note that we do meet annually and often twice. And we were very fortunate a few years ago to host the first ETNZ conference here in Hamilton. And so that was an eye-opener and allowing the rest of New Zealand to what we were doing successfully here in our region in regards to energy and electricity. And finally, back to the future. If community-owned energy is about more than electricity, what should success look like for our region and our communities in, say, 2073? What decisions do we as leaders need to make today to achieve it? As we've seen today, the impact of community-owned energy extends far beyond keeping the lights on. When we talk about energy affordability, we often focus on the power bill. But community-owned energy assets can create value far beyond the power bill, supporting local, stronger families, stronger organisations, stronger communities, and ultimately a stronger Waikato region. Ultimately, this is about keeping value local and ensuring that the benefits of the central infrastructure are shared with the people and the communities it serves, our Waikato region. So thank you. That's my delivery on my part, Harvey, and I hope it's going to be helpful for someone. Thank you.
Kia ora, Rachel. Thank you so much, and really appreciate the depth that you've gone into today. It's been absolutely fantastic. So before we ask Ernie maybe to sort of give a few of his reflections, Amy, have we had any questions and comments?
Yes, I've got two. So first question, is the trust charged with influencing consumer electricity prices as well as allocating grants? Is there a conflict of interest inherent in this, i.e. lower prices means less money for grants, and how does this trust manage this?
So the first question is, the trust does not control the electricity price. So we don't have control over the pricing of electricity. And sorry, Amy, I couldn't hear the other questions.
Yeah. Just to follow on from that, is there a conflict of interest in this? Lower prices meaning less money for grants, and how does the trust manage that?
Lower prices, grants. No, there is no conflict.
Great. So next question. Sorry, hopefully nobody else is getting that echo. How should WEL Network be applying the drive for equity and supporting community engagement in building and owning distributed energy resources? For example, if there is a community-owned project with building equity as an explicit outcome, should WEL Networks price connection costs differently to a commercial installation?
And so this is where the company and the trust do work together. We do have the ability to, one of our grants, which is a VICE grant, which allows us to work with the company to deliver regional initiatives in our region at a lot more affordable pricing. I think it's really important that the company, people to know that the company do a very good job of working with the trust to ensure that they can deliver to the best of their capability, pricing wise, service wise, and capability wise. And so in saying that, the network does its absolute best to deliver that affordable pricing in regards to energy delivery. Yes.
Thank you. So that was the two questions that we had. Harvey, you're muted.
Sorry, I am. Pardon me. Yeah. Thanks very much, Amy, and thank you, Rachel, for answering those questions. If you do have any further thoughts, folks, in the rest of the presentation, please just put them in the chat, and we'll come back to those. Rachel, just a couple of questions from me, if I might. Is it worth just mentioning what you mentioned, the year 2073? Is it worth just mentioning why that's important from the point of view of the EDBs or from WEL Energy Trust?
Well, WEL Energy Trust is the owner of the asset, which is its capital beneficiaries is Hamilton City Council, Waikato District Council, and then that will become available in 2073. So our role at the trust is to be really the custodians, the stewards of this asset, and to actually to ensure that it's actually well maintained and sustained and for the benefit of the community. And yes, and I mean, I wanted to also just say, Amy, that in regards to the network charges, the WEL board is those charges are actually determined within a regulated framework, and so we do not have any control on those charges that are set from the network. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. So what you're explaining to people is that unless something changes in the year 2073, the assets of the trust actually return to those 3 local government organisations. That's right, eh? So that's quite an interesting point when you think about the conversation happening with local government reorganisation now, in terms of who the eventual owner might be. One last little question from me, because I think there was a lot about distributed energy systems that others might reflect on. You know, the Frontier Economics report, which I'm sure you had a look at, talked about EDB rationalisation. Is that something that the trust has a view on, given that I think there are, is it 29 EDBs in New Zealand? And is it something that you pay much attention to? Is it something that you've considered? Is it relevant?
All of the above, and taking that into consideration. And I think in regards to the meetings with the ETNZ, it's the conversation that's been had, and it's been had with government. At this point in time, we continue to deliver what we deliver here in the Waikato region. And I think many people probably don't recognise and understand that WEL Energy Trust and WEL Networks are doing a very good job. The network in particular actually punches above its weight as compared to many of the EDBs across this country. And so I think at this point in time, the conversations have been had, Harvey, and considered. And I think it's it being a year where there's been lots of conversations had both nationally and locally. I think we're in a position where we will just continue to do what we do for our communities and wait to see what happens as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, Ernie, can I hand the floor over to you, and a couple of reflections from you would be fantastic. Thank you. Ernie, are you there?
Is that any better? Can you hear me now?
That's you, my friend. It's all yours.
Right, okay. Some would argue I'm better on mute, but never mind. So my role, as I see it, is to be a wee bit of a devil's advocate in some of this and get people thinking a little. And I thought there was a really interesting presentation from Rachel. Thank you for that. And I guess there are 2 points that I've taken out of it, really. The first one is there was a lot of talk about the electricity discount and the use of that money for what is undoubtedly some very, very valuable community purposes. But to me, as the devil's advocate, the question is discount off what? And the question in my mind is, in creating the energy trusts, for all the good job they undoubtedly do, how much extra cost have we put into the structure of the parent industry, and is the community actually better off with that or without it? I could draw an analogy in the other industry I'm very interested in, which happens to be supermarkets. We could, for example, have a fruit and vegetable fund for the people most deprived in the community. But if that was funded by getting the supermarkets to put up the price of fruit and vegetable in the first place, then in fact we're on a highway to nowhere and a no-win situation. So while I certainly value the work of the Trust, I do question whether sitting behind it is an inherently uncompetitive and rather clumsy structure within the wider industry. That brings us back to my second point. As probably the oldest person on this call, I can't see the rest of you, so I don't know. But I can remember way back when electricity was as it used to be. In the days when the Ministry of Works used to construct the power stations, hand them over to the New Zealand Electricity Department, it would manage the generation. Somewhere along the way there was an outfit called Transpower that did the distribution, and then there was, I think from memory, generally only one retailer in each geographical area who on-sold it to the consumer. That was shot down in the 1990s and dismissed as inherently uncompetitive and clumsy. But when I look around at the structure of the industry today, with the gentailers, the distribution structure, the energy trusts and so forth, I wonder whether in fact we might have taken a step backwards. Occasionally, not always, but occasionally the answer to the future lies in looking back at the past. And I think there are things that we could look at from the past to present, where we could create a lot more efficiency in what has become a very, very complex industry, because complexity does have cost inevitably. So that was my thinking. We're only 2 sessions into a very interesting program that Harvey's put together here, and so I don't want to say too much more until we get further down the track. But a very interesting and engaging presentation there. So thank you, Rachel, for that contribution.
Hey, thank you, Ernie, and I think that was appropriately provocative and not directed at Rachel, but I think just the reflection on the complexity of the system. And Rachel, the company that the Trust is the owner of, is literally at the end of the line in terms of that system, and obviously how the whole system responds to the pressures on it is going to be really interesting. Is there anything that you'd like to say, having heard Ernie's reflections in your role as the chair of the WEL Energy Trust?
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Ernie, for your commentary. And I think it's really important to note that the role of the Trust is to ensure that the company is performing, and in saying that, and is doing what they have to do to. It is keep the lights on and service our communities. And many of us will also note that, particularly with the change in more an increase in natural disasters and the weather patterns are changing here in our region. The company is doing even more so work out there in the communities. And I think one thing to note is that, back to the future aspect, is that the Trust are the shareholders of the company, and 2, we are the custodians of an asset that belongs to the beneficiaries of our region. And so the capital beneficiaries is made up with Hamilton City Council, who are 63% shareholders of this, and Waikato District Council 35%, and Waipa District Council, which is 2%. And this is public information on our website. And why I put the year 2073, it's when the Trust will wind up and the funds will be distributed back to its capital beneficiaries. So as you mentioned, Harvey, what does that look like with the talk that's going on at the moment with the possible amalgamation? And that's a conversation that's very, very much early in the piece at the moment. But I think the question is, what is the capability of the trust and the company to do what they can do today, 2026, in the next 3 years, the next 6 years, the next 9 years? And I think it's important that the trust is able to lead and be ambitious, think outside the box, and actually be future focused in what they see will be of great benefit to the region, taking into consideration the environment that we are currently living in. And for you would know this, is that right now what's top of mind for our communities is actually the cost of living. And so the conversations are very in different groups in different places. And so I believe WEL Energy Trust, WEL Networks is doing its absolute best and is doing a good job in actually contributing and to supporting our communities today. Thank you.
Kia ora, Rachel. Thank you. And I think what you've helped us with here is to sort of pull the curtain back on a little bit of the system, because one of the things that motivated me to actually start off this series was I don't think most people even understand how the system works. They don't know where the energy comes from. They don't know what makes the light go on. They don't know who's responsible along the lines, and it is complicated, and we don't all need to know everything, but you know, just reducing some of the magic and giving people a better understanding of how it works ultimately empowers those people, no pun intended, so that they can make better decisions, whether it's as a consumer or an elector, in terms of the public ownership of big parts of that system. So thank you, and thank you for the presentation and for answering the questions so well. Right, so just where to from here, folks? Well, the series continues. Our next speaker is going to be Mike Casey, the CEO of Rewired Aotearoa. And if you are at all alive on LinkedIn, you would have noticed Mike is everywhere. He was at Field Days. He's extraordinarily motivated, very, very clear presenter, and it will be absolutely amazing to have him here on the 8th of July, same bat time, same bat channel, 11 a.m. The link that you used today to jump on to the webinar, you can use it again in a couple of weeks' time to hear from Mike. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. We've got a really decent book of presentations and speakers coming up over the next few months. You can see them there. I won't read them out. And there are more and more coming all the time. So we'd started out thinking this was going to be a fortnightly event. It still more or less is, but it will actually sometimes be weekly as well. But it'll always be on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. So please just keep an eye on the website. And if at any point on a Wednesday at 11 a.m. you think, I wonder what they're up to, just jump on, take the link and come and see who's here. So yeah, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. So, and last point, as we've already made, is that if you want to go back, have a look at the presentation again, or look at the slides at your own pace, just go to our website, look under projects, the Waikato Affordable Energy Challenge, and the recordings and the slides are going to be all there for you to have a look at. So that's it from us. Thank you very, very much to the people who joined the webinar this morning. A particular thanks to Rachel, who's actually taken time out from a conference, I think, in Wellington, at Pōneke to come and speak to us today. So really grateful, Rachel, and thank you. Really, really appreciate that. And also thanks to Ernie for being the provocateur that I asked him to be. That was absolutely brilliant and really, really appreciated, my friend. Thank you, Amy, for helping out as always. So that's it for today. I'm just going to close us with a karakia and then let you get back on with your busy day. So he karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, ta atawhai o ta tātou iriki, o ihu karaiti, me te araha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu ake ake. Āmeni. Thanks, everybody.